So the last class we discussed about the web server, right? We just understand the basic the things on a HTTPD service, and we have the multiple the virtual the hosting inside a HTTPD, like the name based virtual hosting and IP based virtual hosting. So last class we discussed about the basic functionality of the uh, you know HTTPD. I mean, how you can host your website on a HTTPD, and what are the configuration file, and even we discuss the directories inside the configuration file. So let's start with the name based virtual hosting, and then IP based virtual hosting, and even the port based as well. Uh, so once we cover this web server, and there is a three things we left, right? One is a DHCP, and one is the DNS, and another one is a Nagios. I mean, four things. Yeah, sorry. Okay. So today we'll finish anyway, the virtual hosting on Apache, and the other things which we need to cover, the Linux, that is the DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, and the DNS, Domain Naming System, and third, an application server, that is a Tomcat or a JBoss. Okay, and the fourth thing, we need to know the Nagios monitoring. So these four things we need to cover, but we will cover this four things when we talk about AWS, because again I need to discuss this the tools in AWS, so that we will cover along with the AWS. Okay, today we'll do the virtual hosting on Apache, and then we'll start with the AWS today. Okay. Understand, Mahant? Is that fine, or we need to complete this and go to the AWS? Because again I need to to discuss these things on AWS. DNS is equivalent to the Route 53.
Yeah,
And
no problem, Shiva. As your wish.
Yeah,
we don't have
so
any problem. Yeah.
when we talk about elastic load balancers, then we'll talk about application servers, and when we talk about monitoring, there is a CloudWatch, and along with that, we need to understand the Nagios as well. So DHCP, there is a elastic IPs when we discuss about this, and we need to discuss the DHCP. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start. The virtual hosting now, and we'll talk about other things. Okay. So now I have a definition. I mean, last class we discussed about normal HTTPD service, right? System CTL, status, and HTTP, and it is active and running, and we can use the curl command and localhost or your IP 19.168 or 10.50 or 70, because this machine has a 2 IP address, 10.50 or 10.70. And if I enter, see, you are able to see that. And even if you specify the caps I, so now we are receiving the 200 response code. So what is the meaning of 200? And everything is successful, right? And we have some headers and the content type and everything, right? And suppose instead of 200, if we
Anay, your voice is getting slow now.
How about now?
Yeah, it's fine now.
Okay. So if you receive a 300 response code, it means everything is successful, but the content you are receiving is not from the machine which you accessed. That server is redirecting to some other machine and getting the information in that particular case, and you will get a 300 response code. Suppose if you specify image.html and you're getting a 400 response, because I'm trying to access my web server and I'm asking for the content which is in an image.html, but I don't have an image.html in my server, so that your server will give you this response code you are looking for, which is not available on a server. That is the 400 response code. And sometimes your system cannot perform well. In that case, suppose you are requesting for some web application or a web page that is not loaded and in time. I mean, it's not respond in a specific time, right? There is a latency. In that particular case, your system will give you the 500 response code. All right. Maybe let me discuss that as well. So you have a server here, and you have a database, web node. Maybe you are running some PHP application here, and this is the database. Okay. And your application is working fine, and someone send a request, all right, using their web browser like a Chrome or Mozilla or whatever it is, and the request came to the web page, web server, and it's working fine. But to get the content, and it has to connect the database, right? Maybe your database is slow, and it is not responding in a timely manner, so that your application, your web server is not respond to the client in a timely manner. In that particular case, the 500 response code you can see. So it means 200 means success, 300 means redirection. Instead of one mission, it is taking the data from another mission. That is the redirection things. And if it is a 400, there's something issue with your client side. Maybe you are not able to authorize to access that particular application or a web service or a web page, or if it is that content is not available on the server. In that case, you'll get a 400 response code, and the 500 means there is an issue with your server, right? Maybe the server is not responding in a timely manner. So there are a lot of the things we need to calculate, whether it DB has issue or the application has issue or whatever it is, right? You have to troubleshoot in such a manner, right? You have to go to the logs and identify it. What is the load average on the system, and what is the the response from the DB, whether it is as a slow queries and all that stuff. The entire lot of things. Maybe your network is bandwidth is very low. So there are a lot of possible ways to get a 500 request. Not only the application has issue, and there is a one special case in a 400 response. There is a 405. 405 is not basically, like I said, if you see the 400 response code, it means the client side issue, right? But if you see this particular response code, it is not issue with a client side or a server side. Maybe in between your client and the server, there are a lot of redirections, all right? And in that particular case, your server will give you the 405. 405 means 405 HTTP method not allowed. It means there are a lot of methods, right? Here we are seeing the get request, a put request, right? Delete. There are a lot of methods you can give it to the server, right? If it is a get means you are trying to get something, right? You are asking to get something, right? A web application or a web page or something, right? If it is a put means you have to push something into the web server, like that. Delete, if you want to delete something on a web server, then you have to specify the delete. So if your server is not accepting this particular HTTP method which you are trying to access, whether it is a get or a put or a delete or a, anything, insert something. So in that particular case, you are receiving the 405 method. Okay, 405 HTTP method not allowed. Maybe your server is restricted to receive the traffic in the particular method, so that it will give you this error. Okay, that's fine. Today, let me do the virtual hosting, and we'll talk about other things later. Okay. Okay. So now just clear the screen. CD/etc stdpd. So this is the server node of your HTTP service. It means server root means all the configuration files will be inside, all the configuration logs and the modules and everything has specified here. Okay, let's just go to the conf.d, and if there is any additional configuration, you have to specify on this location. Right now, I'm creating a site1.conf. All the configuration file has to be ended with the .conf. So I'm creating this site1.conf, and I have to specify some virtual hosting. Okay, let me go to the structure and name-based virtual host. Sorry. Simply you have to so whatever it is, just yeah. So this is let me copy this. Insert it. I'm not specifying the IP address, right? So I can say star, right? Anything, but if someone says server name www.example1.com, the request has to come to this. All right. And what is the document root? /www.example.com. And error log. So particular this site has a different error log. That is a logs www.example.com error log. And this is the custom log, like access log and all the stuff, and it can be here. Right. Let's save this. Okay. And I will want to create another site, which I can specify the same. And here I'm not specifying the IP address. It means if you specify the IP address, only it can be accessible from that particular IP address itself. Okay. And if you stay star, it can accessible from any permission. Okay. That is the 8. Okay. Now here I'm specifying the example2.com everything. And here is example2.com. And here also the server name is example2.com. And log file also I specify the 2, and here 2. Okay. Save this. Clear. Now I want to see this content like a site1.conf. Oh, I specified, sorry, move suit1.conf site1.conf, and the same thing 2 I have to rename as a site2.conf. Okay, clear. Any name you can specify, that is not a matter. So now site1.conf, and I have to create this section, right? So first of all, you have to go to the cd / the var www.html, and we have directly the index.html file here, right? But we are specifying the document for this site. I'm creating the, okay, just a minute, so there are other people coming back to me. So yesterday we had discussed about the normal HTTPD, the configuration, right? And today we'll discuss about a name-based virtual hosting, right? For each site, I'm creating a different configuration file, and I'm specifying something like this. Okay. So virtual host, and from who can access this? Star means everybody can access this, and at which port it will listen? 80 port only. And suppose what is the server admin for this particular site? That is the webmaster.example.com something. You can specify your own email address, right? And what is the document root basically? Document root means through that web page, what is the content you want to receive? That document you have to specify in that particular location, right? In a normal, the document root, the main configuration file, which says /var www.html, right? That's why we specify index.html in that particular location. But for this site, I'm creating another document root, that is a /var.html. Inside that there is example.com directory. Inside that we have to specify the index.html file, right? And what is the server name? This is the server name, www.example1.com. Using this name, I can connect this particular site. See, what is the name based? Actually, we have a single server, single HTTP service, and a single IP address, but we are hosting multiple websites using the names, right? We specify the name, then only the request will go to this particular site. Okay. Now I'm creating a document root. I don't have a example1.com. I'm creating a example1.com, and I'm also creating a example2.com for another site. That is the site 2. Okay. Now go to the example1.com. I'm creating an index.html file here, right? Vi index.html, and I need to specify HTML close this and h1 welcome to site1.example.com. Okay, now I'm closing this, and finally I have to close the HTML tag as well, right? I did it. I'm copying the same thing and save it. I go to the another directory, which is a example2.com. I'm creating an index.html file here as well, and I'm copy this content and like site 2 here. Okay. Now, if someone access to www.example1.com, it has to say site 1. And www.example2.com, it has to say welcome to site 2. That is the thing here. Now I save this. Okay. Now there is one more thing, we have to create this as well. Example.com. Okay, let's save this log file and go to cd/var log. And I'm creating this file. Let me create a touch and this file. And touch another file. This is the access log. Okay. And insert it. The same way, I need to create example2 error log. Example2 access log. Done, right? Now understand? So cd-hyphen cd/etc http conf.d, and here we created two things, site1.conf and site2.conf. And if you visit the site1.conf, the virtual host started with this, the block, virtual host block, and it has to end with something like that. In between, we specify the server admin document field and the server name, error log and the custom log, right? So all of them are running on an 80 port only, both are, right? Even if you take the cat site2.conf, then it is also the same thing, right? Now we have to open our local DNS resolver file, that is the etc host file, and I'm telling 192.168. 10.50. What name I'm specifying? www.example1.com. Okay. And again, I'm specifying now, or you can specify here itself www.example2.com. Okay.
So both will give you take this IP and reach the website. Okay. Now save this. Now call www.example1.com. Welcome to TechStart. Why it is going to the normal name?
Here, restart HTTPD. I'm restarting the HTTP service. Now do the curl example1.com. Now see, welcome to site1.com. Now the same way, if I do example2.com, it will go to the site2. Understand? Because I didn't restart the HTTP configuration files, right? I specified the configuration file, but I didn't restart the HTTP service. That's why it didn't take effect. So now I restart the HTTP service. Now if I do www.example1.com, but both are pointing the same IP address and the same service, right? But the document are different. Now if you want to access this from the Windows machine, okay? Now let's say www.example1.com. It will not reachable from the Collaborate International Dictionary of English. Okay, it is giving some other, right? Maybe there is an example1.com, some this thing. But how I can reach from here? I can't, right? Because for my Windows machine, it can't identify what is the IP address of example1.com, which is a 19.168.10.50. So it can't resolve the IP address to this host name, right? But how we can do that? Even etc host file is a common in all the OSs. Even in Windows also we have a etc host file. There we can specify our temporary name resolution for your sites to the IP addresses. Okay. Now let me go to this Windows E. Now go to this PC and see there is a use Windows System 32. System 32. Here we need to search for a host. See, Windows driver /etc. So here, edit with a notepad. Okay, let me specify our own IP addresses, right? So that is 192.168.10.50, and I can specify www.example1.com and www.example2.com. Okay. Now I just save this. Okay. Control S to save, right? Now I save this. Now if I go and try to access the www.example.com. Now it will check the etc host file. Identify the
IP address, which is a 1.168.10.50. Then
it can restart. Okay. Maybe let's check the the IP tables on this machine. IP tables -L. So it's enabled. Now I'm checking F. Now see, welcome to site one.
example. Even
www.example.com, example2.com, and enter.
into the welcome site.com, right? And if I specify the IP address,
192.168.10.50, directly go to the
because it's by default is going to that. If you don't specify anything, it's just go to the that's it. Okay, understand this?
Okay. So this is the name base. Like that, you can create a multiple, sites from the single web server. Okay. Now we need to identify the IP based virtual hosting, right? For each site, we need to specify the dedicated IP address to the site. We have same site1 and site2.com. Now I need to identify the IP based, right? So site1 I want to give a 10.50 and site2 I just want to give a 10.70. If someone accesses the 10.50, it has to go to the site1, and 10.70 it has to go to the site2. Okay. Then just go here and you can refer this virtual host, you know. So now set up IP based virtual hosting. So first of all, we have to, you know, have a 2 IPs. As of now, we have a 2 IPs, right? 10.50 and 10.70. And even you can go to the http.conf and you have to specify that particular legend address or something, whatever it is. But here I'm specifying the virtual host, you know, 0.100 and here 0.101. So we need to specify the different IP address. Now vi site 1.conf, and here I need to specify 192.168.10.50, which is the site 1, and let's say we're remaining all the same thing, right? Now save this and go to vi site2.conf, and here instead of a star I can specify 192.168.10.
70. Alright.
Now systemctl restart httpd, right? We did a configuration.
Changes, we have to restart it. Restart. Unknown operation restart.
Restart and enter. Now it is successfully restarted. Now, first of all, we have to open the etc host file, right? 10.50 w1example.com is fine. 192.168.10.70, that is a www.example2.com, right? Now the same thing is fine. Now directly we can use the IP address curl 192.168.10.50. Enter.
Welcome to site1.com. And if you say 70, alright, say site2example.com. So we specify some names, right? 50
Is example1.com and 70 is example2.com. So even if you use a curl www.example1.com, then it is pointed to 50 and it is
opening the site1, right? Welcome to site1. And if you say
example2.com, then we can use
the site2. Now understand how it is working. Then
Then what I have to do, I have to open a different
port number. The site1 has to work with the 80 and the site2 has to work with the 8080. Okay?
So vi site2.conf, right? Here both sides we have specified the 80.
After both of them are working on 80 port. Now I'm specifying the 8080 and then save this side. Okay? But if you system CTL restart
And history
HTTPD successfully restarted, but you can't
curl www.example2.com.
do
Welcome to TechSpot. It is going to the
default one. Why? Because we specify the 80. If you don't specify
any port number, by default it will take 80, right? So the 80 port, the site is not working. That's why it's going to the default one, which is the default site. Suppose if I say 8080:8080 and enter, fail to connect www.example2.com, which is a 80.
is the connection with you. What is the meaning of connection with you?
that port is not listening on your mission. That is why it is saying connection refused. How to check that? netstat-lp10 pipe grep HTTPD. So which is running on only 80 port, but we are trying to access on 8080.
port, right? And we are saying in the
Configuration
please run
of this
8080 port. That is the
local host block configuration, but we need to enable this on a 8080 port, right? So where we have to open, we have to go to the main configuration file, which va/etc/httpd/config.conf, and you have to identify the listen
directory. So here we have a listen. So we specified only 80, right? But how it can run on 8080? So what I can do, I can do copy, and now I can specify the 8080 and then save this. Okay. Now I can use the systemctl restart and the HTTP. Right. Now, if you check the netstat command, lp10, so your HTTP is running on both 80 and the 8080 port. Right. And if you use example 2.10 and it can run on 5.2. So for each
you can specify the different port number and you can run it. Okay. Understand? So now I want to tell you something which we need to redirect it. Okay. If you access one site, it has to redirect to the another site. Okay. So for that, let me start another node, which is a m.repo. This is another mission, right? And I started. Okay, so I want to connect from the PuTTY this as well. So I can go to the new session. And what is the IP address? 100. This is IP address, right? 192.168.10.100. And I'm using SSH protocol 22 port and open network connection refused because I think I'm running different port number here. Okay, let me check that root Red Hat. Okay, so netstat -lp10 grep SSH SST. If the service is not itself, it's not running. So systemctl start SSHD, right? Okay, unit not found SSHD. It's failing because we're running on that in a different port. HTTP. Sorry, I'm very sorry. SSH and SSHD_config, and here you can see we are running with a 7221 port. If you open the 7221 port, we have to disable the IP tables, or you have to open the 7221 port on a IP tables. So as of now, I'm specifying only 22 port, which is a default port, and the save. Clear this, and systemctl start SSHD, and it successfully start. And if you check the netstat, lp10 grep SSHD, and which is running on a 22 port, right? Very good. So now I can go to the PuTTY and I can restart this. Now it is successfully connected, and I'm root. What happened? Okay, let me close this. Yeah, so I enable the the PIM-based authentication for this, right? So that's why it is not accepting the passwords. Okay, let me go here, and how to disable the same configuration file we have to go, and so password-based authentication. We said no, right? So that's why it is not accepting the password. I have to specify the yes, and we need to restart the SSHD. Okay, now this is how you can get the the troubleshooting part, right? And why it is not. Okay, so negotiation. That is IP address is a 192.168.10.100 and open, and now it is asking the root, and I'm specifying the password and successfully login, right? Let me increase the font, change settings, just go to the appearance and change this value, and you can specify the 16 and okay, the apply, right? So rpm-qa HTTPD to check whether the HTTP package is installed or not. It is installed, and even I can check the tools as well. Both packages got installed. Now cd/var w.html, and I just want to create an index.html file here.
Yes.
All right.
And I want to copy the same content.
Example 1.com index.html. So instead of a cat, I can use a cd. I can use a cat command. I want to copy
Copy
this same thing here, but this I can say site 3. Okay. Now enter. WQ, enter WQ and save and quit. Now systemctl status HTTPD. So it's not started. I can start it. And if you want to enable, then simply you can specify the enable. You know what is the enable means, right? When you start the system automatically.
service will start. Okay.
Now I can use a
192.168.10.100. I'm able to access the site as well. Okay. Now, if I
request to the site 1, it has to redirect to the site 3. That is the thing we have to do. So let's go here. And where is the configuration? conf.d, and we have a site1.conf, right? Clear vi site1.conf, and I can specify the redirect. Okay, let me, there is a syntax for redirection. So, so simply we can say redirect to this. Okay, Control C, and I'm redirecting here. Sorry. So redirected to some HTTP. I'm specifying the IP address itself, 192.168.10.100, right? And the same. Right? Systemctl restart HTTPD. Okay. Now, curve 192.168.10.50. This is my mission, right?
it is going to the site 1. But if I enter, now see, I found the
Document has moved. So we are getting a 302. Why? Because it's redirected to some other mission, right? And if you want to see the content, all right, let's say from here I can see 192.168.10.50 and enter. Maybe we can see the IP tables on this mission. IP tables -L. So it's open and I can specify the F. Now see, welcome to site3.com. Why? But here you understand something. I specified the IP address, which is the 19.168.10.50. It is redirected to 10.100 and we are able to access this. Now, even if you do one more time, I'm specifying, please observe this 10.50. And if I enter this, it is changed to 10.100 and we are getting the site 3. So what is the disadvantage of this redirect actually? Even customer knows it is changed, right, in a URL of your browser, right? That got changed to some other IP address. They can identify the, identification of the remote server. So that is a 10.100, right? So instead of telling, specifying to the, the clients how you can redirect it, there is another way we can do it. Instead of redirect, we can use the proxy pass. You can make our server as a proxy server. So the proxy server will redirect the information, but it will not tell the information to the clients. It means here we can see the 10.50 only, but the content will come from the 10.100. So if you specify something like that, it means that no one can't understand from which server we are getting the content. All right, and even you can identify whether it is redirecting because of this 302, the rule, the response code. But you can't identify from which server we are getting the request. They will not specify the URL of that particular site. Understand, Mahan? So now let's try to do that as well. So VI site1.conf. Mahan.
Yes, Shiva. Yeah.
You understand the concept, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now instead of redirecting, I can specify the hash. I'm commenting this. Okay, I am specifying.
Okay, let's say something. Proxy pass
The slash
and the HTTP colon / 192.168.10.100. Okay.
and we have to specify another thing. Proxy pass remote. So this also specifies the same thing, HTTP colon / 192.168.10.100. Okay. Now, sorry, there should be capped proxy pass reverse. Save this systemctl restart HTTPD. Right. Now, if I go here and instead of 10.100, if I say
10.50.
so now we are getting the welcome to site 3 only, but this got changed, right? So that is the proxy. So redirection, and if someone asks you what is the difference between redirect and a proxy pass, then you have to tell. If you use the redirect, the client will know from which server we are getting the content. But if you use the proxy pass, it will hide the server information to the client. Understand? So now one more thing, I want to provide authentication to access my website. Okay. If someone accesses my website, they have to specify the username and the password. Okay. They have to specify the username and the password, then only it will allow you to connect the system. So that I can use the HTTP, HT password command, right? So authentication for my website, HTTPD site.
Shiva,
Yeah.
same time can't we configure by name?
Yes, you can configure. Okay, let me do that as well. See here 10.50 is a example1.com, and I'm specifying 192.168.10.70, right?
Yeah.
70 is a example2.com, and control S. Just go to here and www.example1.com.
Where we specify the proxy path, right?
And .com. If I enter, now see, it's going to the example1.com only, but we are getting the content from the site3.com. Understand? So, and one more thing which we discussed, right? That is authentication. So we have to NML authentication, authentication. Okay. ST password command. We have to use a ST password authentication. Okay. So first of all, we have to check whether we have a HTTP password command or not, there or not in my system. Okay. So clear ST password. It's there, right? ST password -C, and we have to specify the location of your where you want to create this particular file. Okay. So it is std.std password, and I'm creating a user one. Okay. User one or a admin. Cannot create a file using HTTP password. Why? Which ST password? /user/bin/STD password. Admin cannot create a file using HTTP password. Okay, so you cannot create bf-h. Use 85%. Okay. Then why it's not able to create? So just go and so if you are on Linux server with Apache, you can use st password command. If you don't currently have an distribution, -c option to create the file with the first user. Data and ISS users. I restart. Maybe let's say SC status set enforce set enforce 0. Then let me create a okay. But we are not able to create it, right? Then want to create a file. Okay, let me create here itself. Yeah, it's creating a, but where we are creating in a before? ST password. Oh, so ST password, the directory is not there. That's why it's not creating a file. So, okay, anyway, it's creating here. Now it's asking for password for a, the Siva. I'm specifying the Siva 123 and Siva 123. Adding password for user Siva. It's successfully done. But later, we have to add this information to the, if you open this file, right, /etc httpd dot http st password. Now see, this is the Siva user and this is the encrypted.
This packet file which we created Siva into 3 bytes.
Now the
Same information we can specify into the
directory. So we have to create this auth config. Control C and vi/etc site 2. We can specify this for site2.conf and here I'm specifying. So that is a var.w HTML and example2, right? Example2.com. This is the directory. I'm specifying allow override auth config. Okay, and it has to this as well. I need to specify. So we are specifying auth config. Okay, and save this file and systemctl restart and httpd. Okay, now just go here and try to access www.example2.com and enter. Welcome to export. Okay, sorry, we have to specify 8080 port, right? Because they are running in the site on 8080 port. This config. Just a minute. There is something we can use a different. So this in two ways we can use. One is the HTTP and one is the .htaccess file as well. But we can use HTTP password itself. Digital version. This is Nginx. So just go to the basic authentication. So conf ID we specified site2.conf, right? So directory auth basic, auth type, auth name, basic authentication, auth file. Okay, so let's me take this, Control C, and open site2.conf and remove this allow override this and the directory as well. Shift O, shift insert. So auth type, the basic auth name / etc http.password. So this is where we created inside the HTTPD only, right? Password. So it's require valid user. I forgot this, these things. So let me restart HTTPD. Now just go to the browser and try to refresh this. So now see, it is asking, now you have to provide a Siva user and the Siva 123. Then only you can able to access it. Okay. Or else let's just the remove this and I can go to the Neocognito and www.example2.com and if I enter, sorry, I need to specify the port 8080 because they are running on this 8080 port. Enter immediately the last button authentication Siva and control 3 and assign. So this is the site2.example.com, right? So this is the basic authentication. So you can try with the .ht access file, right? So simply you can just let's say HTTP authentication where we created that using HT access file as well. Suppose here I'm using HT access. If you see something, set up basic authentication using the Apache HT access file. So you can create this HT access file. So first of all, we have to create a password for the user one, maybe user one or Siva or whatever it is. And then here user two, you can read the content of the HT password file. And you can specify the, the permissions and the ownership for those two files and password authentication. You simply create a var.html.ht access where this .ht access file has to be created. So wherever the document root, if the site one, you specify /var.html site example1.com. That is the document root for the site one. And if it is a site two, /var.html example2.com. That is the directory for us. So there we have to create a .ht access file. If you use the main file, /var.html is the document root for the main file, the site. There you can create a .ht access file and you can specify the auth type basic, auth name restricted content, auth user file, right? So which user, the HT password file has to be checked and required valid user. That's all, right? And if you specify this on that particular HT access file, that HT access file, you will see that and it will ask for the authentication. So this is how you can specify it. And you can also use HT access file. Suppose if someone asks you, restrict this website from this particular IP. So there is a multiple, the IP address, everybody can connect to my site. Suppose if someone asks you, there is some particular IP, we are getting a lot of requests and your website is going down because of that. So first of all, you have to identify. How you can identify? You can go and check the logs and which IP is hitting more. And but that's little difficult. We need to have some tools to identify what are the IPs. I created my own scripts to identify how many requests is coming from the one side, particular IP. Based on that, I can identify, and if it is going bigger than some threshold, like a 500 requests, more than 500 requests from a single IP, then I can block that IP to connect my machine. Right? Once I block, it can't. So how I can do that? Either allow and deny, deny from this particular IP address, allow from this particular. So HT access to deny my website. There is a tool, HTTP access tool. Okay, let me HT access tool itself. Okay, HT access tool. If you want to deny, so other user discover HTTPS tool and the deletion and the redirections, XC redirection, generation create HT password. Huh? I block IPs with the HT access. Okay, if you just go and enter the IPs you want to block. Suppose I say 192.168.10.1. So that is my Windows mission. Which IP which is to connect this site, right? I'm filling the generate a HT access file. So order deny allow deny from 0.1. Suppose if I specify the HT access file, just go here, cd/var developed HTML example 2.com.
All right. Enter. We have to create a .st access, and I need to specify the inside save file, and the system is systemctl restart http. Okay. Now
Let's say
extra local host. I'm able to 10.70, right? That is one. 192.168.10.70. That is my website. See, and I can specify the 8080. Now I'm able to phone unauthorized because it should give a username and the password to unauthorized. Right? That's why it's saying unauthorized. Even the code we can provide the username and the password. That's right. Now if I go here,
I created another this thing, right? Now if you refresh this, okay, let me take this and close and hit this and enter. Okay. I restarted, right? Systemctl restart httpd. Restart is not required. Restart for this, but anyway. So now if you refresh it, why it is not asking that authentication as well? Okay. cd/ll vi-site2.conf and take this directory. .dd and save this file and go to vi.htaccess file. Systemctl restart httpd. Now if you refresh this, what happened? So just go to So files require all granted, require not IP. This is a one way, and 10.50. Now create a file name .exe in your website document root directory and add this, for example. So they specified a file and require all granted, require not IP. Okay, let me do this as well. Control C vi.st access file. But you can also specify order allow deny as well. But I am using the same way in my website company website myself. Now insert. Okay, what happened? I just want to remove one. Starts. Let's start HTTPD. Now if you just go to this. Sorry. I'm very sorry. We need to change the IP addresses, right? So I don't have this IP address. I don't have this IP address, and I want to remove from 10.1 or 0. 1. Yeah. Save this and restart. Windows R CMD ping exam www.example2.com, right? And if I enter 10.70, it's able to reach. And what is the my IP? IP config your default gateway and 10.103 is my no. This is not IP address, right? 991 10.1 connection suffix 10.1. Let me do with this particular public IP address and stuff. Control C. So somehow this is IP address is not maybe it's a virtual machine. Even I will show you this my configuration. Like let me 1 minute. This will work. Order allow deny work. This will also work. Let me show you that in my how I disable the IP addresses in my organization. Okay. So just go to the account and the management console. Okay, there are a lot of So okay, now just go to this. Siva and I connected my web, AWS, and just go to the EC2 section. Okay, so manager, will do the same thing all the time. Right? Fraud. Okay, so prod now 01. Let me take this, and I need to add my IP to the security group. So inbound and the 22, where is my Shiva? So my IP. Okay, now save this. Just go to this git bash. Let me connect with the key CD D. What happened? C. Huh? Okay. So I'm very sorry. There is no the downloads CDWS ls, and this is my ssh-i scholastic.pem ac2-user @ and insert the IP address, and I can connect to my machine. Just go to cd/var www, the web strategy, and now if I check a vi.ht-access file, right? Now see, order allow deny from this and allow from all. So this is how I can specify that. So from all these IP addresses, this particular site is not accessible. Suppose this site actually basically ema.scholastic.com. Okay, ema.scholastic.com. So now I'm able to access the site, right? Now what I can do, come here, let me open with the sudo privileges, access, and copy deny from my IP address. So what is my IP address? How you can reach your public IP? You have to say what is my IP. So this is your IP, and just go and insert it. Now just go here and try to see forbidden. Why? Because I added my IP to this deny list so that I'm not able to access this file. Okay, understand? So this is how htaccess also be used. Okay, understand, right?
Yeah, Shiva.
So anyone else? Any doubts? So let me remove my IP address here.
No doubt, sir.
Okay. So, and one more thing we have to discuss, that is a SSL. Secure
Packet layer, right? If you want to provide your application with a HTTPS, then
have some information, right? How we can make your website with a secure, that is HTTPS. So basically, it will work like a certificate. Okay. Anyway, we'll talk about this tomorrow. I mean, while you're doing the other things like Apache, AWS things, right? So I will show you how we can create the valid certificates and what is the people definitely will ask you, and how you can create a, even if it is application server or anything, people definitely ask, and what is how you can configure your application or a website with the HTTPS, and you have to understand how the the function works in a backend when you hit the URL on the browser, and how it has to connect the website with a secure manner, and what needs to be checked and everything. So you have to be have an explanation for that, right? For each step. All right. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. It's almost the 11, right? So tomorrow we'll start with the AWS and all that stuff. But I think tomorrow it will become the Tuesday. I don't want to start new things in Tuesday. Today we'll talk about a few things on AWS and we'll do. Okay. So AWS, Amazon Web Services, right? What is AWS? Mahant, can you please tell me what is AWS?
Amazon Web Service, they are providing the data centers to the users.
It's
Anybody can.
AWS is a cloud service, right?
Yeah, cloud service, yes.
So there are multiple clouds as well, right? Like a public cloud, private cloud, hibernate, community cloud, and hybrid cloud. So these 4 types of clouds we have. And before diving into that, what is a cloud basically? The cloud is nothing but the internet. All right. In a network terminology, and the people use cloud symbol to refer the internet. All right. So the cloud means through internet we are receiving the some service that we can call it as a cloud service. That's all. Suppose let's take a Gmail. Your Gmail, to use your Gmail, are you using any software in your local system? No, right? Simply you have a Chrome or a browser, and you just need to connect the gmail.com, and you are using their Gmail service, right, to the internet. Right? So that also is one of the cloud. Even Google Drive, there is a storage, right? It's also one of the cloud kind of thing, because to use that particular service, you don't need to install anything on your machine. Simply you can connect through their service, and they will provide the service as a web service to the customers, right? If you access something on a web, that means a web service, right? So they will provide a storage, and they will provide their Gmail service as a web service to the customers, so people can use the service and without configure anything on their local system. So that is the meaning of a cloud. So the public cloud, what are the different types of the clouds we have? A public cloud, private cloud, community cloud, and a hybrid cloud. So what is the difference between this? Let's try to understand the public cloud and the private cloud. And if you create any cloud service, and if you expose the service to the entire the public, right, in the globe, so everybody can access your service through internet, that we can call it as a public cloud. And suppose if you want to provide your service to the specific region, right, maybe your company or your building or something, that we can call it as a private cloud, that is restricted to only the specified people in your organization or something. All right, so understand that we can call it as a private cloud. But what is the meaning of hybrid cloud? If there is any communication between your private cloud and the public cloud, right, that thing we can call it as a hybrid cloud. Suppose you created a private cloud and you are using some application to deploy in your private cloud. You launched the 4 virtual machines and all the stuff, and you deployed your application. And the infrastructure required, private cloud means you have your own infrastructure, physical servers and all the stuff. Those using those physical servers, you created a private cloud. How you can create a private cloud? Using OpenStack. So there is an OpenStack, the service that is a cloud OS. If you want to create your own cloud, you can use the OpenStack as a platform, and you can implement a private cloud. So now you implement the private cloud, you launch 4 instances, that is a virtual instances, and you deploy the application. Now there is no resource available on your physical server, suppose. Now if you want to launch the 5th instance, are you able to launch? No, right? Because there is no resources available on your physical server. Then you have to buy the physical infrastructure and you have to give it to the that private cloud. Instead of using that, if you want to extend your infrastructure to the public cloud, now you launch a 4 instances in the private cloud, and if you want to have more instances, instead of creating in a private cloud, if you use the public cloud, the site-to-site VPN, you can create it, and immediately it will go and launch the instances in the public cloud, and some of the nodes in a public cloud and some of the nodes are in a private cloud. So this kind of things we can call it as a hybrid cloud. Okay. Next, what is the community cloud? Community cloud also is equivalent to the private cloud. If you only organization implement their own, the private cloud, their own cloud, that we can call it as a private cloud. If the multiple organizations come together and create their own cloud, that we can call it as a community cloud. Instead of independently create their own cloud, multiple companies can come together, organization, and they can create and build their own cloud, that we can call it as a community cloud. Understand? So now the AWS is a public cloud, right? And each cloud will provide the services to the customers, right? Like I said. So what kind of services they can create? So they, entire organization, the things they specify into the 3 parts. One is the infrastructure as a service, and a platform as a service, and a software as a service. So what is the infrastructure as a service? Infrastructure means your hardware, right? Your networking and your OS and your CPU and the memory. That is the main thing, right? Infrastructure means there is some computing resource capacity required along with the networking and everything, that we can call it as an infrastructure, right? The infrastructure they can provide as a service to the customer, that we can call it as a infrastructure as a service. And what about the software as a service? Like if you take a Salesforce, the Salesforce is a CRM tool, right? It's like a Siebel CRM or something. The Siebel is not in a cloud, and the Salesforce is in a cloud. That is the software which you need to use. That software you have to install in your, the local file system. Then you can use it, right? That is the software. If you want to use a Siebel, you have to install in your local file system. But Salesforce, you don't need to install. They have their own, server, and you are connecting to their server, and they will use some, the credential, like a login credential, and then you are using their service, right? Their software. Instead of you, installing in your local system, you are using that software in a remote, right? Through the web servers. Those kind of things we can call it as a software as a service. If you provide, suppose, let me give you the general scenario. Suppose if you want to use a McAfee antivirus, suppose, what you need to do, you need to buy the McAfee software from the vendor, and they will provide a CD or something, and you use that CD, and you have to install it, and they will provide a license key, and you have to use the license key too. And that software always be running on your system, and it will scan your system all the time, and it will provide a security of your system, right? Now, if they want to provide this software as a service through the cloud, what they can do? They just give a login, and once you register, log into that particular site, they will provide, you have to purchase, and they will provide one license key. All right. And whenever you want to run your system with a security, then you have to just log into that, McAfee website, and you can specify the run test. So it will scan enter your system, and you can provide it. So instead of installing your local file system, you are using their service, their software. right? That we can call it as a software as a service. Like a Salesforce is not a cloud. Salesforce is a software from a cloud. That is a software as a service example, right? Now, platform as a service. What is a platform basically? You know what is the infrastructure and you know what is the software. What is the meaning of platform? Suppose as a developer, I want to implement my application, and once I implement my application, I need to test my application code, right? So for that, I require a platform to test my site. So what are the things you require? You need to have some environment, some mission. Inside that, you have to have application server and everything, and the required, the dependencies has to be installed and everything. Finally, I need to have some URL. So whenever I push my code to that, and then using this URL, I can access my code, whether it is working fine or not. So this entire thing, we can call it as a platform. It can combine the infrastructure, it can combine the, the software or, the services which you need to install on a mission, and enter some platform you require. Simply, the developer can push their code into that platform. It's already ready-made platform to run a Java application. So you can build your own, code, jar files, and you can push the jar file into the platform, and you can access the things. That we can call it as a platform, right? So, like in AWS, we call it as a bin stack, elastic bin stack or something, right? So those things are a platform. The platform as a service to the customer, right? So some of the public clouds will provide only IaaS, some of the clouds will provide only SaaS, and some of the cloud will provide a PaaS. But AWS will provide all three, IaaS, SaaS, and the PaaS. All right? So, and why we need to choose the AWS? Because it has a, the market is, and it's keep, rapidly growing, right? And every 15 days they have, the new thing is coming on, the AWS, right? They are working on security very frequently. That's why we choose a AWS. All right. So AWS is a cloud service, a public cloud service, and it can provide a IaaS, SaaS, and a platform as well. Okay. And now we have to understand one more thing on the, the AWS. Okay. So how this cloud functionality works and what is the architecture behind it? Not only the AWS, in any cloud if you take it, how it works. So in general sense, it's equivalent to your electricity. Suppose how the electricity works, governments or a public sector or whatever it is, whoever want to generate the power, they have some turbines and all those things, and maybe they use the different things, right? If it is a water, they use the turbines. They can also generate the power using the, coal mine, right? Understand? So however they generate the power, so they have to store it somewhere, and how they can pass this electricity into your home, they have to use the, the substations and the transformers, and how they can, forward that, electricity. They have to use, wires and everything, the entire infrastructure, and finally it reaches to your home, and in your home they will specify some meter. All right. Now, as a user, you just think about whatever the the electricity I use. So only that, for that particular thing you have to pay it, right? Whatever you use, you need to pay for it. So you don't need to worry about how they're generating and how they are providing, the electricity, and how many people are working over there, and you don't need to worry about it, right? And simply they have to provide a service, that is electricity service, and you are using, and they specify based on the units, right? And how many units you used, and you need to pay for that. The same way the cloud as well works. They will provide the infrastructure and everything, and you just need to go under whatever you want, you can start it, and they will have a meter, right? There is a billing, and every hour and every something like that, they will generate a bill, and based on that you have to pay finally. So you don't need to invest anything in upfront. All right, understand? This is how it works, right? And from tomorrow onwards, we'll start with the services and what are the services we have, and we'll discuss. Okay. And one more thing before close the session. From tomorrow onwards, everybody, even if you are in a home and you're connected from from home, you have to open your laptop and you have to create your AWS free tier account. So I think today you have to create the free tier account. It's just straightforward, right? You just go to the AWS console and you have to sign up for the new account, and you just specify your username and the email address and the mailing address, your address, and finally it will give you the payment options, like how you can pay the amount. So you can use the debit card or credit card or whatever it is. They will charge for only 2 rupees, and every month they will give us 720 hours for free and all the services. Okay, so just create an account today itself, and then tomorrow you have to open that account and you have to follow along with me so that you can have a practice as well. So theoretically this much we have to work on hands on now, right? Understand, Mahant? Hello, Mahant, are you there?
Yes, sure. We'll create that account today.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you all.